We'll be continuing. So from last week, we have already completed question 1 and 2, which is to teach you all how are you all supposed to plot certain coordinates on the 4 different quadrants. Okay, so for now, what we're going to go is we're going to go into 10.2, which is to understand gradient of linear graph, and then we will go into equation of a straight line, right? And then we'll be looking at question 3 and 4, and then after that we'll be looking at how are we supposed to draw certain line graph together. So we will complete the content part and we will look at the questions one by one based on the content that we are looking at. Okay, so now gradient of a linear graph. Of course, you can pause the video and take a screenshot and write down the notes first, but I'm going to explain as we go. Okay, so you can pause the video, write down the notes, but for each part I will explain how does all the parts make sense together. Okay, so for here, right, the gradient of a linear graph, what does gradient means? Gradient means is how steep a straight line is. So if you look at the one that I draw here, the red line and the blue line over here, if you look at here, the red line will be said as the more steep compared to the blue line because it's more flattening. You see, a steep will be something that is almost closer to a vertical line. Alright, so for example, a gradient of 3 means that for every unit to the right, it goes up by 3. For a gradient of -4 means for every unit it goes up for every unit to the right, it goes down by 4. Okay, so the difference is we have a positive gradient and a negative gradient. So what does positive and negative gradient means? So from here, I have a positive gradient means that the line goes upwards, and a negative gradient means that the line goes downwards. So look at this one that I have drawn for you all. So let's say I have an x-axis and y-axis over here. The more steep would be this line, right? What does this line mean? This line means that for every 1 unit you go to the right, you go up by 5. Okay, and for this one it's less steep. Why? Because for every 1 unit you go to the right, you only go up by 3 units. So the blue line here is more steep than the red line over here. But do you realize that the lines are going upwards, right? So if it's going upward means that it is a positive gradient. Means that there is no negative sign in front of the number. Means that the gradient is going upwards, right? But if let's say today you have a negative gradient, so based on the example I've given you here, 3 and -4, what does this mean? So if you have a negative gradient means that the line is going downwards. Okay, it does not necessarily have to go at this quadrant, it can be any quadrant as long as the line is going downwards. How do I know if it's going downwards? So let's look at here. Let's say if I have a -4 gradient, that's just not what I mentioned. When I'm moving 1 unit to the right, the line goes increased by 4 units vertically to the bottom, downwards. Okay, so in this case, if let's say I want to compare my green line and my red line over here, my red line will be said that it is more steep. Why? Because for every 1 unit that it goes to the right, it increased by 10 units in terms of vertically, but it's going downwards. Okay, so who is more steep? Of course, the red line will be more steeper. Okay, so this is the difference between a positive and a negative gradient. Then the question will ask, how are we supposed to find out what is the gradient? So you need to remember this formula. This formula would be the change in y coordinates divided by x coordinates, the change of x coordinates. So if you remember, the change of y coordinate means that it's going up and down, right? So this one will be rise. That's why I put a rise over here, because it's going up and down, right? So it's vertical movement of the points. And the change in x coordinate is horizontal, so it's going towards the right or going towards the left, right? So in this case, if let's say imagine you are running, right? So you are run on a horizontal ground. So this will be the change of the x coordinate. That's why I put run. So for us to find the gradient is always the rise over run. Okay, some of us will remember it as y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Okay, so I give you an example. Let's say I'm running from this point over here. Okay, I run all the way here and then I rise, okay, like flying like that. I'm flying upwards. So let's say, for example, my point coordinate for first one is 2 and 3, right? And I moved all the way to 10 and 6. So I run first from 2, I run all the way here, and then I move up, I fly up until 6 over here. So this is run and this is rise. So for us to find the gradient, what we are going to do is we need to determine which one is x1, x2, which one is x1, y1, and which one is x1, x2, y2. So for here, 2 to 3 is the starting point, right? So I just give him x1 and y1. Then the final point will be 10, 6, so I give him x2, y2. Then I just have to substitute into my formula. Gradient equals to y2 minus y1, so it's 6 minus 3. And then this is x2 minus x3, x1, right? This is the denominator, so it's 10 minus 2, so it's 10 minus 2. So when you get this, you will get your gradient. And what do you realize from this gradient? You realize that, right, this gradient is a positive gradient. When it's a positive gradient, you need to check, is this true or not? Because my line, is it going upwards? If it's going upwards, means that it's a positive gradient, then your answer is correct. Okay, so this is how gradient works. We want to know how steep the gradient is. Alright, so the question can ask you to find out what is gradient. What's the gradient of certain pairs of coordinates. Okay, so we will be going through this question 8 and 9 now to look at what are the things that we can do. So over here, use the formula. I want you all to try out the question 8 and 9 over here and pause the video, find out what are the answers for A, B, C, and D. Okay, pause the video and then take some time and then find out what are the gradient for every single one of them. Okay, and then replay the video. Okay, for now I will straight away go into the answers. Okay, so for here, right, you can see for here A is 3, 5 and B is negative 1, 8. So if you give 3, 5 as x1, y1, then this one will be x2, y2. You cannot give me x1, y2 like this. No. Okay, if the first one you want to put is 1, then you put x1, y1. Don't go and mix up x1, y2. No. Okay, you want to give the back one x1, y1 also can. But if the pair you give is 1, then you give everybody is 1. You don't do 1 is 1 and the other is 2. Okay, so for here the gradient is rise over run. So for rise, this one is 8 minus 5, which is y2 minus y1, which is 3. Negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. So here you have negative 3 over 4. So here you know there is a negative gradient. The line is going downwards. Okay, next here we have y2 minus y1, so it's rise over run. Okay, rise over rise. So the rise is negative 3 minus 8. So here, sorry, this is the C. Sorry, negative 3 minus 8. Be careful of, look at how I write for the negative values. Because you are doing negative 3 minus 8. So you need to write negative 3, negative 8. Alright, then next, for x2 minus x1 will be negative 3 minus negative 7. So look at how I write. Negative 3 minus negative 7. So don't eat away the negative. Even though it's already negative 7. Remain your negative sign over here. You are supposed to write the negative sign. So here is negative 3 plus 7. So here you will have a negative 11 over 4. So your gradient is a negative gradient. So your line is supposed to go downwards. Okay. Then next, this one C is quite simple. 5 minus 8, which will be your rise. So here you have 5 minus 8, you will have negative 3. And then 0 minus 7, you will have negative 7. So when on top is negative, below is negative. So means that your answer will automatically become positive, right? So your answer will be 3 over 7. Okay. So when you see negative, don't be scared, just do it only. See whether you can change it and convert it into positive. Okay, next one also the same. We have 3 minus 2, which will be your rise. Y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1, which is 3 minus 1. So you will have 1 over 2. Okay, so you can check your answers over here. Okay, I want you to find the gradients first. Okay, want you to find the gradient first. You don't have to draw the line first. Okay, just have to find the gradients. Okay, so from here, when we know the gradients already, then we can sketch on the question paper. So let's go to the question paper. Okay, so now go to the, go to question 8. Go to question 8. Okay, so go to question 8 and then you are supposed to draw the graph from here. But I want to focus more on your gradients part. So when you already have your point and gradients, this is where you can plot and then you straight away draw the line, right? So for example, just now from the question itself here, we can see that from here we have the 2 points, right? So I just have to draw the 2 points. Draw these 2 points over here. Question A here, sorry. Okay, so for example, the first one over here is A is 3, 5 and negative 8. So you're supposed to be here 3, 5 and negative 8. Then can you see, right? The line is going downwards. So this one is a negative gradient. So this one is negative gradient. Okay, so how do we interpret when it comes to like certain fraction in terms of gradients, right? You can take a look at here. So just like I mentioned, this one here, okay, so what does 3 means over here? Can you see from the graph itself, can you see there's 1 box here, 2 box here, 3 box here. So can you see you are rising 3 units above. Okay, then what does the 4 stands for in terms of here? It means that it's 1 box over here. You see, you're starting from this point, 1 box, 2 box, 3 box, 4 box. So what are you trying to do? You are running 4 units from here to here, and then go up there by 3 units. Okay, so that's why we have 3 and 4. But because the line is going down, so we will add a negative. Okay, so it's always the change, it's always the change in rise, okay, your rise divided by your run, rise over run. Okay, so you can check your line supposed to be like this. You just have to put in 2 coordinates, draw a line. And then we want you to find the gradient. Okay, so we will now go back to our notes. Okay, so now we have already looked at what does it mean by gradient and all those, right? So what we are going to do now is with the knowledge of gradient, we now need to learn how are we supposed to form an equation of a straight line. Why do we want to form an equation of a straight line? It's because we need this equation to form our graph. Okay, to find the values of the points where this graph will intersect. Okay, so now let's look at question 10. Let's look at 10.3. Okay, equation of straight line over here. A general equation of a straight line, okay, is given as y equals to mx plus c. So m is the gradient over here, as I mentioned. C is the y-intercept, and I always want you all to always remember what does it mean by y-intercept. Okay, y-intercept means is where the graph touches the y-axis. Okay, so C is the value of y-intercept, x is just the x-coordinate, y is just the y-coordinate. So to find an equation of a straight line, you always need to find 2 important information. First thing is what we have learned just now. You need to find a gradient. Second is you need to find a point. You need a y-coordinate and an x-coordinate, which is xy. So these 2 always remember to yourself. Right? You need these 2 things to find. You need a line, you need a point. Right? A line and a point. Then, only then, we will try to find the C value, which is the y-intercept. Okay? A point. So remember, a gradient, a point, then find the C value, which is the y-intercept. Then you can form your equation of a straight line. Okay, so I can give you an example over here. So you can pause the video, draw out this example, but in the meantime, you can just listen to what I'm going to explain. Then only then you go and write out what is this. Okay, so for example, I want to find an equation of a straight line. So let's say I have a straight line from here to here, 2 and 3 and 4 and 6 over here. So for me to find the equation of straight line, remember you need a gradient, you need a point, then only find the c value. So in this case, you have 2, 3 and 4, 6. I find my gradient first. Gradient equals to y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So 6 minus 3, 4 minus 2. So your gradient is 3 over 2. You get the 3 over 2 ready. This is your m value. So number 1, we finish. We found the gradient. Now I need to use one point. Use any one point to find the value of c, which is the y-intercept. So I put in the y equals to ms plus c. This is the general equation. What I'm going to do is I take one point. Let's say I want to take 4, 6. Okay, fine. Let's just take 4, 6. Right? Y equals to 6 equals to 3 over 2. You substitute 4 into it. And then you plus c. So can you see the entire equation now only left with one unknown, which is c, the y-intercept. So from here, I managed to find out that c equals to 0. So if c equals to 0 means behind you just add 0, so there's nothing else. So your equation is y equals to 3 over 2x. In this case, they have no y-intercept. Okay, so this one I think there's an issue with the line. The line is supposed to be, it's not to say they don't have y-intercept, it's just that the y-intercept is 0. So this is y equals to 3 over 2x. This is how we form an equation. Okay, how we form an equation. Okay, so for y-intercept and x-intercept, I want you all to always remember, always remember, because always people will forget what is it. Y-intercept is where your line touches the y-axis. So in this case, your x is always 0. Right? So means, right, when I say give me the coordinate of a y-intercept, you can be any number. Let's say for example 10. Let's say for example 10. Okay, the y coordinate is 10, but your x is always must be 0. Always is a 0. Okay, let's say if the question asks, I want you to tell me what is the x-intercept. X-intercept is basically where the line intersects at the x-axis over here. So when it touches the x-axis, right, what is 0? The y coordinate is 0. So let's say I say give me the x-intercept. Always check your y-intercept must be 0. It's always in the 0, the x-intercept. Okay, sorry, x-intercept must be 0, because it's not moving down or upwards. It's on the x-axis, it's on the 0. Okay, so always remember y-intercept x always equals to 0, x-intercept y always equals to 0. So you can copy this for your notes. Okay, now before I move on, I do want to give you an example on all this thing. Okay, there will be times where questions give you horizontal line and vertical line. Okay, then in that case, right, what is the equation of the line? So you always need to remember, if today you are given a horizontal and a vertical line, is always x equals to a number or y equals to a number. There's no other variable inside. This is the standard format already. Okay, so let's say for example, look at the red color line here. If today I have a horizontal line, I give this line 1. Okay, line 1. So line 1, what will be the equation of line 1? If it's the horizontal line, you always need to look at what is the value in the y coordinate. So in this case, the horizontal line is at y equals to 2. So your equation needs to be y equals to 2. So then what if it's a vertical line like this one, -3, then your x will equals to -3. This is the point where it's -3. Okay, so this one is a bit, maybe if it's new for you all, it will be a bit difficult because you will always remember, oh, horizontal line is X, vertical line is Y. But when it comes to that one, is only applicable to the axis. What is the axis? This one. Okay, but when you are looking at a line that is already being drawn out, then you need to flip it, you need to tebal it. All right, so for horizontal line, look at the Y coordinate. For vertical line, look at the X coordinate. So these are the equation of straight line for vertical and horizontal line. Okay, right? And then because this one is corresponding to question 3 and 4, but I do want to go through first. We don't go to question 3 and 4 first. I want to finish up this 10.4, also a notes on it. Okay, so you can pause the video, take a screenshot or write down the notes I have written here, and then we'll move on here. Okay, so for 10.4 it's about drawing a straight line graph. So we have two methods. First one is we will use a table of values. Right, you will need to find all the corresponding x values and y coordinates and then connect them. You plot them and then you connect them with a straight line. But there's also a second method, which is you use y equals to mx plus c. Okay, but you need to find out what is the equation first, because it depends on the question. The question sometimes will give you a table and then they want you to find all the single point and they want you to plot everything. Then you need to follow the question. But sometimes the question just straight away give you the equation. Then how are you supposed to do? Or maybe they will just give you the gradient and the point, and then they want you to plot the graph. So in that case, you will need to use method 2. If the question give you table, you use table method. If the question didn't give you table, you use the straight line equation method. Okay, so we will be looking at this in question 3 and question 4. Okay, so now let's look at question 3, question 4. So we have completed question 1, question 2. We have completed question 8. Question 9, I'm not going to go in first because we still need some practice in some basic question before we move on. Okay, so now let's look at question 3 and question 4. Alright, so question 3, they want you to complete the table first to find all the values of x, width and y. And on the question 3 graph paper, we want you to draw each graph on the same graph paper. Okay, so now I want you to pause the video, substitute each of the value into the equation, and then look at, we tally up whether we are on the same coordinates or not. Okay, so pause the video, calculate everything, put into the table, and then replay the video, and then we will have the answers over here.